What's your name? Jay. Say hi to, hey, Jay, say hi to YouTube. Yeah, that's Jay. I don't know who Jay is. He's just, you know, we got over 100 something drivers. I don't know them all, so. You want to buy a pre-emission truck? That's fine. You want to buy an old school truck? That's fine. You better have a place to run it. But you're also going to have to know what you're looking for when you're buying one of these. And we're going to just take a quick walk around and do a quick introduction on this truck so you know what you're looking for. So what I've got here is I've got a 1997 W900. Because it's a 97, it's pre-emission, it's E-Log exempt. Bonus, but it's also got a 60 series Detroit engine in it, which means that there's very little technology on it, very little of the new technology on it. When I say that, I mean all of the new emission systems. So what we're gonna do is I'm just gonna show you, if you're looking to buy one of these trucks, I'm just gonna show you what to look for when you're buying these, because it's sort of a different animal than the new trucks. Obviously, there's no warranty on this, so you want to pick off a couple of things and make sure that these are right for what you're buying. So I'm just going to open up the hood here. Unfortunately, the hood on this thing weighs more than I do. So we're going to get it open, and we got a nice wind going. Don't laugh, I lost weight. That is a beautiful sight. Anybody my age that's been driving trucks for a long time and knows what that is, that's a 60 series Detroit engine, and it is a beautiful sight. It is a pre-emissioned engine. There's no emissions on this. And when I say no emissions, I mean there's no EGR, no DPF, anything to do with the new. But there are some things that you do need to look for on these engines, okay? Probably the first thing that I would look for on this engine is you check your head. Okay, now this engine here was rebuilt, so I'm looking along the head, all along here, all the way across and all the way down. I'm looking for any oil. I'm looking for drips, drabs, anything that shows me that the gasket or the head gasket on this truck is gone, or there's a problem with the head, okay? You've got a cracked head. That means the head would have to come off and get machined, or you'd need a new head, and that can be expensive. So little things like oil, just a small little drib and drab on the oil, that will actually tell you a lot about these engines. You've got your starter down here. What condition is your starter in, okay? If you've got a 1997 or a 1996 or anything, say pre-emission, anything pre-2000, you don't want to see a starter in there that's been there that's the length of the truck. Chances are you're going to be changing that. So what you want to look for is a newer starter. This one here is actually a new starter. It was put on, I think it's about 6 months, or just before I bought the truck actually. The starter was put on. And again, all along down here, anywhere that there's one piece of machinery or one part connecting to another part or connecting to the block, you want to check it for any kind of seepage. Now, don't get me wrong, these Detroits, they are known to, it's called slobbering. They like to slobber. So there are little dribs and drabs of oil, and you'll get used to that, and that's normal. But you don't want anything where it's a constant, steady stream of oil coming anywhere from the head down the block. So basically from here all the way down. Check all your components, your water pump, your starter, anything down here. And then down here you can't see it, but down here I've got fuel filters. Are they dry? You know, they're dry. I've got a dry fuel filter. Now that's what you want to see on these trucks. Any kind of leakage or seepage or anything on that is going to tell you that your fuel filter is not tight enough, or you've got a problem with the housing that you're screwing into, and that can cost you money. So double check that. Make sure that the head is good on this truck. Find out if it's ever been replaced or if it's ever come off. And usually when they take a head off for anything, it usually goes out, gets inspected, gets either reground or ground down and refixed, or they put a new head on. When they rebuilt this one the second time, when they fixed the engine problem, but when they inspected the head, they ended up finding out that the head was cracked in 2 places. I told them, don't bother, just put a brand new head on it. So this has a new head on it. Now we'll go around the other side. Before we get around the other side, check your wiring. Okay, you got to remember, if you've got a 25-year-old truck and the thing's never been rewired, check your wiring on these pre-emission trucks, on these older trucks. All of the wiring down here, just quickly, like you do not have to, like there's a whole nest of wires there. Now that's all for your headlights, your signal lights, your marker lights and everything like that. But take the time before you buy the truck pull the wiring apart and just run your fingers along, inspect, make sure there's no breaks, no frays, none of the plastic that covers the wire itself. Make sure none of that has been cut away and you've got exposed wiring. Wiring on these things, especially the older ones like that, it's a pain in the ass. Thank God it's not like a new truck where there's 200,000 miles of wiring. It's not, but the wiring on this can throw you for a loop and it can take you a while to find a problem. So let's go back to this side. Don't mind my bird poo. Now, this is beautiful. I love this. What is it you don't see on this engine? 90% of you know what I'm talking about. What do you not see? I see an alternator, I see a turbo, I see a manifold, I see an AC compressor, water pump. What else is there? Nothing. There's no EGR. No EGR cooler, no EGR valve, no DPF filter down there that's got to be. Nothing. It's beautiful. I love this. You've got an older truck. You want to think, okay, I want this truck. What am I looking for? Well, again, same thing as on the other side. You're going to look at the block. Start with your head, where your head connects to the top of your block. Okay, do we have any leaks? Do we have anything dripping? Is there any problems? If the answer is no, hey, carry on. Water pump, you check your water pump. There's obviously water going through that. Water is one of those, unlike oil, if you've got a small leak, oil is thicker, it may not make it through. Water will go through anything that has a crack in it. If there's any crack anywhere, doesn't matter the size, water will go through it. If you've got drips and drabs on the ground and you've got water, or coolant, chances are you've got a problem with the pump, water pump. Check your water pump. So like I said, anything where one piece of machinery is connected to another, usually there's a gasket in between the two that separate it, and that's what you're looking for. If you find a leak on these engines, and here's a good example, that turbo there. I just replaced that turbo a couple weeks ago. That turbo blew. Now, I said this before, when I did the Volvo, I blew the turbo on the Volvo, that was a $7,500 replacement. That there, all in, out the door, buy it, install it, out the door, I was under $2,000. And that's because of being the older engine, the older turbo, the older. Now, does it work? Absolutely. It works just as well as that $7,500 turbo does, and it's probably a quarter of the price. But it's also the same with all of your other components. All the components on this truck are going to be cheaper. So don't lose your mind if you're thinking of buying one of these trucks and you find and there's a couple of smaller issues. If you need a new water pump, you're not looking at millions of dollars here. You're talking about, you're into the hundreds. Turbo, you're under $2,000 installed out the door. You know, we're not talking big ticket items. If you find water pump, you find some water, you got some leakage, don't lose your mind. Check it first of all and make sure it's not pouring out. But if it's just a small drib and a drab and it's a little bit of a leak, don't worry about it. Okay, you can get that fixed down the line. Alternators, this is the same alternator as in most of the trucks today, so there's nothing new or fancy about that. Same with the compressor. I just put that compressor on here. I was out in Fargo last week, 200,000 degrees. My ass was frying in that seat. My AC compressor blew. And then it took the high line, the high pressure line and the low pressure line with it. So I ended up having to replace the whole ball of wax. But still, I was under $2,000 for the whole new AC system. On the newer trucks, it's gonna cost you a lot more. But these are the things, again, you're checking on these trucks. The beautiful thing about this is because it doesn't have all of the emissions, it doesn't have all of the computers. Look at this truck. I dare you right now to find me 5 sensors. Anywhere on this truck, there's not more than 5 sensors from here to here. You go look at that Freightliner over there and we open the hood on that and I guarantee you from here to here, you're gonna find 25 sensors. This is one of the beautiful things about these trucks is you do not have the sensors or the issues with them, but you do need to know what you're looking at. So this is just a quick, okay, we've got the engine covered. There's not a lot to it. So there's not really a whole lot. You don't need to make a checklist as long as your arm of things you need to look at on this engine. Ask some questions, whoever owns it, find out when it was built, rebuilt, if it was rebuilt, when was the last time the injectors were done, if they were done. Get all that information because that's all internal and you can't check that. Anything that you can see and you can get your hands on or you can touch, definitely grab it. I don't mean shake the shit out of it until it breaks, but grab it, hold it, move it, make sure it's sturdy and it works. So we're just gonna do a real quick on the back of the truck. Now, even though there's not a lot on these older trucks, there are some things you do wanna check. And one thing that is important is the frame on these, okay? If you've got a 24, 25-year-old truck, you take the time, you make the time, and you go up the whole end of from one end of this frame right up to the front and all the way back and you check that frame. You do not want any kind of rust. And I mean rust, of course, there's rust on here. Surface rust like this is good. You're gonna have, I don't mean it's good, no rust is ever good, but you've got some rust, don't worry about that. What I'm talking about is when you've got a bubble like that, and it's bubbling through, and you can go like this, and you're actually going down into the metal. When the rust is starting to eat through the frame, those are gonna be weak points, and you don't want any of these. Surface rust does not weaken your frame, does not weaken the steel. You've got rust that goes through, that's gonna be a structural integrity thing, and you're not gonna have the integrity you want. Now on the back of this as well, unlike the new trucks, there's not a whole lot of sensors. So you don't have to worry about that. But what you do need to worry about is, again, because it's an older truck, look at all your lines, okay? You've got your air lines going into your airbags. Make sure everything is sturdy and nothing is rusting off. Check where everything connects, where anything that connects to the frame, make sure that whatever bracket you've got or is being used to hold it to the frame, make sure that that is still intact and is in good shape. Now, if you look right here, we've got a new camera person here and she's gonna be working with us. Her name is Alana. Alana turned to me a few minutes ago and said, "Oh my God, Brian, what is that on the fifth wheel? Are those worms?" So everybody in the YouTube world, you guys can all laugh your ass off because you all know what that is. We're all gonna tell Alana what that is. That's grease, Alana. That's what grease looks like before it goes on the fifth wheel. And the fifth wheel being black, that's what it looks like when you're done with the fifth wheel and you've hooked up a trailer. So no, I'm not driving around with red worms on my fifth wheel. I've got grease. A couple of the things to look for when you've got an older truck, and it doesn't matter whether you've got a Star, a Pete, a Kenny, a Freightliner. If you're buying something that's that old, take a look at a couple of these things. It's not hard because, like I said, the beauty of the older truck is there's not a lot to them, right? You're not having to rip through a ton of wiring or computers or anything like that. So there you go. I hope you learned something. Give us a like, subscribe to the channel, and definitely leave comments, okay? We really appreciate your comments. I read them. I know Ronan reads them. The guys do. If you're a real I'll reply to it, and you know, we can get into a little war of words if you want. Let's have a good day, eh?